What's up, guys? This is Kyle over at the Horror File coming back to you again with another Video Nasties review. And this is actually going to be a collab review with my man Derek. This is going to go on his Came from the 80s series. He's doing movies from the 80s, or It Came from the 80s. What is it called, Derek?
It Came from the 80s.
It Came from the 80s. So this is going to be on his series called It Came from the 80s. This will be on my Video Nasties series. But today we're actually reviewing another Video Nasty, which is an 80s exploitation slasher film called Pieces. So I'll let Derek talk a little bit about the director and everything, and then we'll kind of get into the plot.
It's directed by, what's his name? Juan Pepper Simon. He goes by J.P. Simon, usually. I know of two films that he directed. I only watched one of them, though. I know he directed a film in the 70s called Satan's Blood.
Oh, yeah, I've seen Satan's Blood. It's awesome.
Yeah. And I also know him more from the 88 film Slugs, you know, the creature feature with about killer slugs.
I haven't seen it, but I have heard
it. It's great. It's wicked gory and like cheesy, though, at the same time. Because when they show the slug, it has like a little teeth and it bites people. It's great. It's got blood and everything. It's great.
Feature right there.
Yeah.
Who does it star? I see that it looks like it stars Christopher George and Linda.
Yep, Christopher George and his actually it's a wife and husband combo. Linda Day is his wife, Linda Day George.
Oh wow, I didn't know that.
Yeah, they were married. They were like a star couple. Christopher George, of course, you recognize from City of the Living Dead, the Lucio Fulci film. He was in that.
Oh, yeah.
And he was in Grizzly and Day of the Animals. And
yeah,
I know more from...
He looked familiar. I forgot he was in City of the Living Dead, though. I hadn't seen that movie in a while, so...
I recognize... I've seen tons of films with him, and I remember him from this TV show, The Rat Patrol. It was like a World War II TV show. He's in tons of films. His last film was Mortuary, the slasher with Bill Paxton.
Oh, yeah.
Another one with Linda Day George.
Bill Paxton's been in some crazy older movies.
Yeah.
Near Dark was like a big one of his back from the 80s, which was pretty cool.
Yeah, Mortuary is more of an obscure one. I know Scorpion had released it, and I think it's out of print now, but there's like a limited Blu-ray. I think that's like hard to find too now.
Yeah, that's I know he looked, like I said, I know he looked familiar. I just wasn't sure. I had no idea that they were actually married. That's pretty interesting.
Yeah, he was also in Graduation Day, the 81 slasher.
Oh yeah, Graduation. Yeah. That's an awesome flick as well.
Yeah, and he's actually, if you watch Wheel of Fortune, Vanna White that's his niece.
Ah, good grief. He just has like an extended family here.
Yeah, Graduation Day was actually her first role. He got her in that role for that film.
I had no idea about that. Well, it looks like, I guess this film was released by a couple of different companies. Pretty sure Grindhouse put this out first in 2008, correct?
I believe so, yes. And then I actually have the Arrow version. Arrow Video released it. I have the DVD right here. They released it in 2011.
Yeah, I was going to say, the DVD cover for that looks amazing. I'll let you show that off. You may have to. There you go.
Epic artwork.
Yeah, the artwork for that Arrow release is amazing. I recommend getting the Arrow release for sure. Yeah, it looks like Arrow put that out. I think they released it in 2011, and Grindhouse released it in 2008. The Grindhouse DVD, this movie isn't on Blu-ray, but the Grindhouse DVD is 2 discs long. Or it's got 2 discs.
Yeah, it's 2 discs. They usually put like all their special features on separate discs. So probably I'm not sure what the Grindhouse edition has for features, but Arrow has a few features on it. But probably Grindhouse has the more features. I'm not sure though. I don't have that release.
Yeah, I mean, with the amount of features that's on some of the Grindhouse Blu-rays that I have, I can imagine like they have a ton of features probably on it, which would be interesting to see with this movie. This movie is a pretty interesting movie. I'll talk a little bit. I'll start off talking a little bit about the plot so people can kind of get an idea of what this movie's about if they've never seen it. So like I said, this movie came out in '82. It's an exploitation slasher film. It did get put on the Video Nasties list, which honestly I can kind of see why with this movie back in the early '80s. This movie's pretty gory and has some pretty. I mean, for the '80s, it has some pretty good gore effects. The premise of the movie is pretty odd and gory.
Yeah.
So pretty much the movie opens up with this little kid putting together a puzzle piece of a naked woman, and his mom walks in the room, gets extremely pissed off that he has this puzzle of this naked woman, and she flips her shit on him and tells him to put everything in a plastic bag. She's going to go burn it. Well, he starts putting things in a plastic bag, and then he starts hacking her up with I think it's an axe. He starts
Yeah. Where did he get the axe?
That's what I'm like wondering. Like, where the fuck was this axe at? Like, they just had this axe in the bedroom, and that's like they just keep axes in the bedroom.
It was in the kid's room the whole time.
Yeah, it's like, what the hell? And then like after he hacks her up, he I guess he was really mad at her for getting mad at him. He hides in the closet, and all these cops come in, which I don't know who the hell called the cops, or maybe I missed that part. The cops come running into the room.
Oh, I think the grocery lady came and knocked on the door, and she found something that was wrong.
Yeah, it was.
Yeah.
And they come in the room, and he's hiding in the closet, and his mom's hacked up on the ground. So that's how the movie starts out. And then pretty much the premise of this movie, I'll let Derek talk about some of the other parts of the movie, but the premise of this movie is he gets older, he grows up, and he has this like fetish, or like I don't know what you would call it. He's just basically like a slasher, like a serial killer, and he's hacking up different people's body parts and putting them together like the puzzle that his mom didn't want him to put together.
Yeah.
Pretty cool premise, honestly. I mean, I think that's a cool premise for a slasher. It's interesting, at least.
It is.
So I don't know if you want to talk about a couple other scenes in the movie. This movie's kind of all over the place with some of the stuff.
Well, it goes 40 years into the future to start with.
Yep.
It's a high time span, but it makes sense after you watch the film and you find out the ending. But I'm not going to get into that yet. We'll get into that later. The first thing I want to talk about is that we didn't mention that this film actually takes place in my hometown.
Oh wow! I did not know. In Boston.
Yeah.
Yeah. I did not realize that. That's awesome.
But when I was like reading like stuff about it, I guess only like a few scenes from the movie that were actually filmed in Boston, and the rest was filmed in Spain, which I could see. I could tell which scenes were filmed there and not. But it had like the college scenes and stuff. I could see them as like a Boston setting. I don't know which ones were actually filmed in Boston.
Yeah, I was reading the Wikipedia, and I think I saw where most of it was filmed in Spain later on. It's hard to tell, though. For me, it was hard to tell. I couldn't tell. I had no idea that I knew it had been filmed in Boston, but I couldn't tell like the difference between, when I go back to think about it, the difference between the scenes from Boston and Spain. I just can't think of any.
No, the thing that got me kind of confused because they had because I don't know what cars looked like back then. In '82, I wasn't born then. Yeah. And they had like cars that said denim mass on them and hospital cars, like ambulances. I don't know what those actually looked like.
Yeah, everything was completely different. I was born in '87, so that was 5 years before I was born. So I have no idea. I mean, I would assume not much had changed between '82 and '87, and I don't even remember the first couple of years I was born, to be honest with you.
Yeah, me too.
It's one of those things where it's hard to think back when you see that stuff. But something that kind of that I will say about it is a lot of these exploitation movies, these early '80s movies, the scenery in a lot of them not just the scenery, but the cars and like the background and the stuff they use in the movie. A lot of it is similar. I mean, it does go along with the late '70s, early '80s as far as like what these cars look like, how these people dressed, how they looked. It is definitely linear in that aspect, at least I could tell.
Yeah. And then so basically the film takes place for the rest of it on like this college campus, and non-spoiler, but a girl gets killed, and then it starts, and then there's this investigation going on, and that's when you're introduced to Christopher George's character, Lieutenant Bracken, and he has like the awesome intro, same like he did in like City of the Living Dead with the cigar.
Mm-hmm.
Always chain smoking the cigar.
Oh yeah, and like the killing that girl. I mean, that doesn't really ruin any of the plot or anything, but that killing was pretty sick. Like you're talking about the one where the chainsaw guy, He comes out of the woods. He's like working, and she's like laying down.
Yeah, 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 yeah.
That was pretty hilarious. Like she's like sitting there, and she's like, "When are you gonna go away?" And he's like, "I'll be done in a minute." And he's like this big fat like dude with like this big beard, and like he walks up, he has like this mask on, and he walks up, and all of a sudden it's like the typical slasher scene where like the chainsaw's coming down, and then it cuts, and then it cuts back, and she's like, all messed up and chopped up and stuff. It's pretty typical, but it's pretty awesome at the same time. I love those kind of scenes.
The one thing I got from watching this film, though, it's kind of set up like a giallo.
Yeah, I could see that. It is. I think that maybe the director maybe
Was influence
enjoys those films.
like even the look of the killer, like with the black hat and the gloves. That's all from giallo films.
Yeah, I really enjoyed the killer in this movie. You kind of find out later on who it is, what's going on, and I really like this. I kind of like the setup to how.
Yeah, I did too.
You hate these slasher movies where the killer looks very generic, and he looks like stupid, because there's so many slashers that are coming out nowadays, and they're all a lot of them are shitty. And then you got these killers running around, and they take off their mask, and this guy, like, I mean, he was a generic looking dude. I mean, he wasn't like a Jason Voorhees, but he, like, it's not often you see these huge dudes, like this dude was built, and it was just, I don't know, it was really interesting to see that.
Yeah, I enjoyed it because I'm a fan of giallos anyways, and because I did see this film before, but it's been a while since I watched it, like maybe like 7 years, and it was great revisiting it because I haven't watched it in a while, and I forgot all about this. And for a giallo type like feel to it, it has some awesome gore in it.